Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Amanda Kramer, and I am the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement at the University of Colorado Boulder's Leeds School of Business. Leeds is a top business school offering undergraduate, MBA, executive MBA, MS, and PhD programs, as well as certificates, and has an alumni network of over 48,000 strong living and working around the world. For today's Leeds webinar, we're so excited to welcome Vijay Khatri, the Tandean Rustandy Endowed Dean of the Leeds School of Business, here presenting Leeds State of the School 2026. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, if you have any questions now or during the presentation that you would like to ask Dean Khatri, please send a question through the Q&A interface. We will monitor questions as they are submitted, and we will ask Dean Khatri your questions throughout the presentation. As a reminder for optimum audio quality, we do have everyone on mute except for myself and our speaker. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please notify us through the chat interface and one of our support specialists will touch base with you. Lastly, a link to access the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants on Thursday along with the survey link. Now I'm excited to introduce today's speaker. Vijay Khatri is the Tandean Rustandy Endowed Dean of the Leeds School of Business, which is the first endowed deanship at the University of Colorado Boulder. Khatri is a professor of information systems whose research focuses on the information economy, encompassing the design, management, governance, and use of data repositories through data analytics. Prior to joining the Leeds School of Business in July 2023, Khatri was a professor of operations and decision technologies at IU's Kelley School of Business and served in various leadership roles, including Executive Associate Dean for Strategy, Innovation, and Technology. He has a strong leadership record of accomplishment in student success, furthering research and scholarship, advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives, and community engagement. Since joining the Leeds School of Business, Khatri has continued his service and commitment to the business community. He currently serves as co-chair of Boulder Together, a strategic multi-year initiative designed to address the highest priorities of Boulder's economic and community need. Khatri's education exemplifies a strong commitment to interdisciplinary education. He earned his PhD from the Eller School of Business at the University of Arizona, a master's degree in business from the University of Bombay, and a bachelor's degree in engineering from the Malavaya National Institute of Technology. Welcome, Dean Khatri, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and very, very excited to be here to actually share the state of the Leeds School of Business. I'm really, really excited to share the strategy updates, and I'll also pause at different points in time for discussion as well as for your questions. Thank you again for being here. I'm extremely grateful. Let's start with the agenda. So we have about 55 minutes or so with us, and this is how I will distribute the time. So I'll start off with about 10 minutes sharing a little bit of background as well as context related to higher ed. I will recap quickly 2035 Leads, which is essentially our strategic plan is referred to as 2035 Leads, and I'll do a quick recap providing a perspective in about 5 minutes. Most of my slide deck and most of the discussion is really about the execution highlights. And we will focus on 4 strategic initiatives, which are referred to as Leeds Edge, Leeds Frontiers, Leeds Elevates, and Leeds Thrives. So let's dive in and let's start off with the first segment, which is related to background as well as context. When I look at select trends that are shaping higher ed, I would say, well, there are so many trends that are shaping higher ed right now, but I would focus on 3 things which are sort of intertwined with each other. The first one is related to first destination job market. The second one is the importance or significance of experiential learning. And the third one is related to AI. As I mentioned earlier, the 3 trends are really intertwined with each other. And let me give you a snippet as to what is happening with each of these 3 trends. With respect to the first one, which is first destination job market, or you could also refer to it as entry-level college graduate job market. So the Department of Labor, they just released the unemployment rate overall within the country, I think just earlier last week. And what they indicated was that overall unemployment in the country, it really went down slightly from 4.4% to 4.3%. But when you specifically look at unemployment for recent college graduates, this is for the ages 22 to 27, it really has bumped up from about 4.9% in 23 to about 5.6% in 2025. Um, Earlier last year, there was also a report that was published in Wall Street Journal about what are the employer ratings with respect to the job market for college graduates. And essentially, if you were to look at the first bar, which essentially is the baseline bar, which was really the worst case scenario, which was during COVID, that the employers, again, these are perceptions of the employers in 2020 to 21, 13% of the employers at that time had rated the job market for college graduates as poor. Comparatively, in 2025, 6% of the employers were rating it as poor, 45% as fair, 37% as good, 12% as very good, and just 2% as excellent. Now, this may be reflected in many articles that you may have read. Things like college graduates are facing the toughest job markets. Uh, so again, as you think about the skill gaps, the job market for college grads is at 5-year low. Now, this is sort of intertwined with another trend which is related to AI. And again, there isn't quite that much clarity as to how these three things are intertwining, but I just want to share in at least the initial thing that we are hearing from some of the employers. So when you think about AI, there are so many articles, whether you read the World Bank report or you read other articles, essentially how higher ed needs to change in order to essentially handle the AI economy. These days, my readings are primarily related to AI. Like you can look at slew of books, all of them are related to AI, and also how AI is going to change how we essentially conduct work. I'm sure you must have also read almost like $500 billion private investment into just building up the infrastructure related to AI. But one article really caught my eye, which was related to how big of a threat AI is for entry level jobs. And the biggest near-term worry is essentially the worry that typically organizations are shaped as a pyramid. So essentially, there are more number of entry-level jobs at the base of the pyramid, and there are fewer jobs as you go to the top of the pyramid. But the worry is that we may be transitioning into a diamond shape organizations where there are fewer jobs or fewer entry-level jobs at the bottom. There are more middle level jobs, and then again, it decreases as you go to the top of the pyramid. The third trend that I'm also seeing is related to experiential learning or the significance or importance of experiential learning. So there was a survey that was conducted by National Association of Colleges and Employers, or NACE, and they really conducted a multi-year survey to essentially identify the value or significance of experiential learning. So when you look at the data set, is quite large, almost 5,000 respondents. And what they found out is that the percentage of students who had experiential learning, who were satisfied with their career, was almost 8% or close to 9% higher than those that did not have experiential learning opportunities. The second thing or second aspect that they ask questions about is the percentage of students who had experiential learning opportunities as to how they build the network in their early careers. And again, if you are an experiential learner, your network would be larger by about 14%. The other thing that they saw is that if you are an experiential learner, there is a probability that you will have mentor in your early career, and that probability is almost 17% higher if you are a non-experiential learner. And finally, what they found out is that experiential learners overall, it's not just in business, overall, if you're an experiential learner, you will actually end up drawing a higher salary close to the amount of $15,000. So no matter how you look at it, experiential learning does make an impact when it comes down to having a career impact. So again, I just want to quickly summarize that there are select trends that are shaping higher ed. The first one is first destination job market that is becoming increasingly challenging for fresh college graduates. Experiential learning is becoming increasingly important, and AI is also going to influence, in general, the nature of work. Let me transition to high level 2035 leads. And 2035 leads essentially is a label for our strategy as to where do we want leads to be in the next 10 years. We just launched our strategy in 2025. So 2035 leads, that's why is an appropriate point in time as to where do we want to be in the next 10 years. As a part of our strategy, essentially we did reimagine our mission, vision, and values. And I won't go over the mission, vision, and values because I did describe them the last time when we met. But I do want to just highlight a big thing related to our mission, vision, and values. Our overarching like vision with respect to mission, vision, and values is that we really want to lead with impact and purpose, whether it is with respect to how we make an impact through our research, or when it comes to impact through our graduates who really are changing the world, the business world specifically. So let me start off with four strategic initiatives. As a part of our strategy, essentially, we've also identified 3 periods of time, and we've developed our strategic initiatives for the next 3 years. So essentially, we've got 3 blocks of about 3 years each over the next 10 years, and we've developed our strategic initiatives for the next 3 years. And we're calling these strategic initiatives as Leeds Edge, Leeds Frontiers, Leeds Elevates, and Leeds Thrives. The first one, which is Leeds Edge, really focuses on lifelong career success and connections for our graduates. The second one focuses on innovation, which is both disciplinary as well as interdisciplinary. And we want to continue to make an impact through interdisciplinary academic programs. A third strategic initiative focuses on graduate education and next-gen learning. The way I learned in college is very different from the way the students right now want to experience learning. So how do we gamify? How do we infuse more and more AI into our curriculum? So I think that is an important piece of the puzzle. And the last piece is Leeds Thrives, which really focuses on well-being and professional growth of our staff as well as faculty and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff. So let me transition at this point into the next phase of this presentation, which is into the execution phase. So over the last 6 or so months, essentially, we've been working on executing, and I'm going to give you highlights of where we are with respect to those four strategic initiatives. And I'm going to pause at the end of each strategic initiative, and I'll also take your inputs, your questions, as well as any comments that you may have. With respect to Leeds Edge, essentially, we have two high-level priorities. The first one we refer to as Design Your Leads for Career Impact, or it is also referred to as DYL. So DYL is a course that we already offer for our first-year students. Our overarching goal is to expand that course. Instead of having one experience, essentially one course experience for our students, essentially we want to create a 3-step experience for our students. The first one will be in the freshman year or the first year. The second one will be in the second and third year. And the third one is going to be in the fourth year. The first one will focus on career exploration as well as professional skills. The second one will focus on career preparation, and the third one will focus on career launch. We're doing something very, very similar, and we just launched a pilot specifically for the STEM-related degrees in the graduate programs. We're also building something that we refer to as Career Pathways and Business Leader in Residence program. So let me describe the Career Pathways and Business Leader in Residence program briefly. So career pathway essentially implies that we've identified 14 different career pathways. What that means is that students would be choosing their majors or areas of emphasis, for example, in finance. But when it comes to a career pathway, it may not be like they may choose to pick up many different possible career pathways. They could choose with a major in finance, they could choose to essentially choose a consulting as a career pathway. They could also choose asset management. They could also choose investment banking, which is part of capital markets. So essentially, what we've done is that, yes, they need to understand the majors, but they also need to, very early in their career, they also need to realize what their career pathways are. So again, we really want to ensure that the students are aware and they're able to discover many different career pathways, prepare for a career pathway that they want to focus on. Let's say it's consulting, and then launch into it so that they build the network. What we're also doing is we are building in companies that essentially would be recruiters underneath each of these 14 different career pathways. And again, you can see an example for corporate finance. For example, Amazon, Pepsi, Danone, and others essentially would be examples of companies that are listed as recruiters if someone is looking for a career pathway in corporate finance. The third piece of the puzzle is, how do we ensure that our students are essentially able to discover careers, prepare for careers, and also are able to launch into careers? So we also are building in business leader in residence. This is where we are leaning onto our alums who already are leaders in these different career pathways, and we're bringing them back into school as business leader in residence pilots. Many times I'm asked a question, what does business leader in residence mean? How many days do you expect me to be on campus? And my answer is, we really are expecting you to be on campus in Boulder for just one night. So in residence only refers to one night. So when you are here as a business leader, we would love for you to essentially showcase the career pathway that you have chosen so that you can better describe it to our freshman students, to our sophomore, as well as our freshmen, as well as to seniors as they look into launching into careers. The second piece of the puzzle is experiential learning. So, thanks to an 8-figure gift that we received from our donor, we have just established a new office for experiential learning. And this office for experiential learning is enabling our students not just to engage in curricular projects, which is essentially they're embedded into the curriculum, but also co-curricular projects. So these are things that are outside the curriculum. And sometimes students may even get paid for it as part of micro internships. We just established the office. Daryl Zachman, Heather Kennedy are leading the Badami office for experiential learning. And we just also hired Erin, who's serving as the associate director for the office. We have essentially a website, and we are just building like different pieces for the Office of Experiential Learning. And just to give you a little bit flavor as to what is experiential learning, what could it entail? So for example, there could be a project that is essentially out of the country. You could have a consulting project, for example, working with a bank. And I just want to focus on one project wherein our alum, Dave Allen, came in and asked if our students could essentially serve as essentially mini AI SWAT team. This is what he referred to them. And they were working on a project for, I think, 5 to 10 hours a week. And they were actually getting paid. And there were over 30 students who actually worked on externship. I would also call it as a micro internship. And essentially, they did an amazing job for pure phishing. At this point, the other thing that I want to also highlight is positive career outcomes, both in the undergrad as well as the grad program. In the undergrad program for the year that we just wrapped, which is 2025, our positive career outcomes are at 99%, with a knowledge rate of about 83%. And we don't have the numbers for 2025 for national average, but we do have numbers for last year. And for last year, for all the business schools in the country that report to NACE, which is one organization that we also report to, they had 90% positive placement. So we're about 10% higher than national average if you were to use 24 as a baseline, and we don't have 25 numbers right now with us. For the graduate program, our positive career outcomes are at 83% with 89% knowledge rate. And a corresponding number for MBA program nationally in 2024, it's about 81%. So we're right about average when it comes down to our graduate programs. At this point, I want to pause and I want to see if you have any questions at this point. Questions, feedback you may have for me.
Yes, please put your questions or feedback into the chat or Q&A features at the bottom of your screen. In the meantime, we already have some questions that have come in. Thinking about job markets and career outcomes, Dean Khatri, Nathan asked, how should we think about the skills gap conversation? Is it more technical skills, professional readiness, or something else?
That is such a great question, Amanda. As I'm listening to the recruiters, and I would love for you to provide more feedback, they often say that our students truly are, or students in general, truly are great when it comes to technical skills. We also need to focus on durable professional skills, communication, uh, creativity. How do we ensure resilience? So as we are developing these experiential learning opportunities, we also are working on ensuring that our students, our graduates, are also developing these professional durable skills as well.
Great, thank you. We have an AI related question as well from Sarah. With AI changing so quickly, how is Leeds keeping curriculum up to date without chasing trends?
That is such a great point, Sarah. And I think it is a challenge for us to make sure that we really understand the trends and that we really don't chase every single small wave or ripple that happens along the way. So one of the things that we're doing is we're keeping in touch with industry leaders. So we are listening to industry leaders as to what is happening in each of the 14 different career pathways. What are the skills that we really need to teach our students? So that's one thing that we're doing. And we often will host panels wherein we're trying to better understand what really are the big and long-term like trends that we need to focus on. The second thing that we're also doing is we also are in the midst of developing a consortium wherein we're working with other universities and also learning essentially what are best of breed practices. But obviously, we are open to your suggestions if you have any other suggestions. And this is really a big thing for us as to how do we ensure that we really don't chase every single ripple and essentially end up overwhelming ourselves.
Thank you for that. Great. A question related to experiential learning from Stephen. How scalable are these opportunities as student demand continues to grow?
Stephen, that is a spot on question. So as we were developing the Office for Experiential Learning, it's not that we weren't engaged in experiential learning for our students. It was just that we weren't able to deliver it on scale. So when we have essentially, as we are in the midst of developing experiential learning opportunities through the office, one of our goals is to do it on scale. So it's not about engaging a few dozen projects. We really want to have hundreds of projects. So one of the things that we're doing is that we really need to create some sort of a system. So what I mean by that system is we have demand and supply. So there are students that are looking for opportunities and experiential learning, and it could be like a 2 week opportunity. It can be a 6 week opportunity. It can be a day or two opportunity. On the other hand, we have supply, which are the business leaders that are providing these opportunities. So how do we do the matching? So I think that is something that we need to do. So we are right now in the midst of identifying the right system that can essentially enable us to do the matching process. The second thing to do it on scale really entails that we need to essentially create scaffolding. So we cannot really, and the scaffolding will be potentially done by it could be done by peer mentors, like students. It can be faculty mentors. So again, we need to create some sort of a soft system that essentially supports the students as they engage into these experiential learning opportunities. So the point that you asked, Stephen, is spot on, and that is really at the top of the mind as to how do we do it on scale.
Thank you, Dean Khatri. And our last question in this segment is related to Leeds Edge. Natalie said, as an alum, how can I get involved in helping students make connections or find opportunities? I'd love to help.
Natalie, there are so many ways in which you can help as a business leader. You can be part of Business Leader in Residence. Please contact our undergraduate program office or the graduate program office. We would love for you to be engaged in our mentorship program. We would love if you have projects that you can that you would want to offer that essentially we can give to the students. We would love to essentially give those projects to the students. I often say that if it is a project that is out of class, I would love for it for students to be paid for it. On the other hand, if it's a project that is embedded inside a class, then they should not be paid.
Wonderful.
Amanda.
Thank you, Dean Khatri. We are all set to move on at this point.
Thank you, Amanda. So let me continue with the second initiative, which is Leeds Frontiers. So Leeds Frontiers really focuses on innovation. So how do we continue to essentially focus on both disciplinary excellence as well as interdisciplinary excellence? And also, how do we develop interdisciplinary academic programs? So before I go further, I really wanted to give a big shout out to our amazing faculty. So we have faculty members in the accounting division, Claire Wang, for example, who really is the editor of the number one accounting journal, which is the Accounting Review. You will also see our colleagues like Alex Barash, who's so well known in the marketing field. Another colleague, for example, Rodrigo, he will be the visiting scholar at Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. And finally, Russell Crapanzano, he was just named as a distinguished professor in CU's system. There are only 160 faculties since 1977 that have been designated as distinguished professor. And Russell Crapanzano was just designated as a distinguished professor just last year. So we're very excited about it. I also want to give a big shout out to our alums who really support our faculty in terms of creating new faculty scholars, new business fellows or faculty fellows, new professorships, as well as new chairs. Just in the last 2.5 years, we have received many of those, and it wouldn't have been possible for us to both recruit as well as retain the top-notch talent if it were not for your support. So thank you. I want to thank all of you for that. Transitioning to interdisciplinary, so we've identified 3 areas of interdisciplinary focus. And the first one is really related to sustainability as well as consumer financial decision making, which is global business impact and citizen well-being. So essentially, thanks to one of our alums, an anonymous alum who essentially gave us a 7-figure gift so that our faculty can make connections with faculty all over the world and really advance research in sustainability and consumer financial decision making. And you can see that we've just started projects with Technical University of Munich. Our faculty are working with them as well as they are working with faculty members at Erasmus University. The second thing is AI. So we really have to be on cutting edge. So just this last week, last Friday, actually, we just organized a conference and we really invited faculty from all across the country to really showcase all the different kinds of strides that they are making in AI-related research. And again, just to again highlight, so there are 3 interdisciplinary priorities of ours with respect to research. The first one is consumer financial decision making, which really is about financial well-being of our citizens. The second one is on sustainability, and the third one is on digital innovation. The second piece that I wanted to quickly highlight is interdisciplinary academic programs, and that has also been a priority of ours. And when it comes to integrated business and engineering, so this is a new business degree which will have some engineering infused in it. And we're very, very excited about the launch of this new degree in fall of 2026. We also will be launching a new MS degree in sustainable business. This, again, is a degree that we worked on with arts and sciences, engineering, as well as, of course, Leeds School of Business. So this is a one-year degree, MS in sustainable business. In the first semester, which is in the fall semester, the students essentially are going to be taught by faculty in arts and sciences, engineering, and business, and it would be more problem-based rather than discipline based. And in the second semester, they get to choose if they want to focus on sustainable business or sustainable engineering or yet to be developed sustainable science. At this point, I want to pause and see if you have any thoughts, questions, inputs, feedback specifically related to our innovation related mission. So the innovation focuses on disciplinary as well as interdisciplinary excellence. And the second piece is also developing these interdisciplinary academic programs. Amanda, any questions?
Yes, we do have a question from Renner who asked, what led to launching the integrated business and engineering program? Was that driven more by employer demand or student interest?
That's such a great question. So there's so many reasons for it. I would say it was primarily driven by employer demand. So it really is a degree that will focus on the new types of jobs that we don't even know that they exist at this point in time. So that was one driver, which is employer demand. When you look at our building on the north side, and again, this is such a great, I would say, opportunity for us that our business school is connected to the business, to the engineering college. Actually, we are contiguous to each other, which is an amazing thing. When you think about our state, the state of Colorado, so the things that we are truly known for is like entrepreneurship. And we are growing as an entrepreneurship hub. And when you think about many of the new like small startups that will be starting in the state of Colorado, many of them would be technology infused. So yes, it was inspired by the needs of the state. It was also inspired by the needs of the new employers.
Great, thank you for that. And we addressed faculty and some research within this segment. And so Eric has asked, what are the opportunities you see in growing our reputation and increasing our rankings through research and academic excellence?
Eric, that is such a great point, and that is something that I am always thinking about, which is how do we get to the next point of inflection for us with respect to growing our reputation? So I think it really entails that we're able to, so basically we need to attract the top talent from all across the world. It's not just in the country. And I think the second question is how do we retain that best talent? So for example, we're very, very lucky that we're getting talent from really, really prestigious business schools like University of Chicago. We've got faculty that are from MIT, Duke, and we've got people that are really at the top of the game when it comes down to research. We also need to ensure that we're providing them with infrastructure so that they can really do cutting edge research. When it comes to business, sometimes you have to get data sets. So are we able to provide them with resources so that they can buy data sets? Because a lot of business research really relies on empirical research, and you sometimes may need to buy data sets. These days, it is also getting increasingly important to actually get, even in business school, you need essentially computing power if you're doing some sort of modeling that really is based upon the use of AI. So yes, it is about supporting faculty so that they can both collect data, be able to successfully do research, disseminate their research. So having more faculty scholars, more number of faculty fellows, chairs is really, really important for us to be able to attract and retain faculty.
Thank you, Dean Khatri. Okay, we have one more question in this section for now. It's a two-parter. Nathan asked, are you seeing employers respond positively to the interdisciplinary programs? So that's part one. And then part two is, Could you give us a preview of where interdisciplinary programming might go next for Leeds? Perhaps what might be cutting edge or what your vision may be?
Yeah, both are great points. With respect to employers and what they are seeing with respect to interdisciplinary academic programs, at the end of the day, when you are essentially undertaking something that is at the crossroads of two or more disciplines, what you're doing is that you really are learning how to learn. And when you think about the next 10 years or the next 20 years, the most important skill that would be important for our graduates is not just to learn what you learn in college, but you really have to learn how to learn. And I think that is what, at a very, very high level, interdisciplinary academic programs teach you, because whether it is at the intersection of engineering and business, or if it is at the intersection of arts and sciences, engineering and business. So that's essentially at a very, very high level, that is what the employers are looking for. With respect to where could we go next, one of the things that we have been discussing, I would say we maybe discussing maybe too far off, we've been noodling around, is the importance, for example, of healthcare. So when you think about healthcare, and as the state itself is getting older, healthcare services, so employment related opportunities, specifically in healthcare, are likely to grow within the state. So how do we prepare our students in some of the interdisciplinary area, perhaps related to healthcare, could be the next frontier that we could focus on?
Great.
Anything?
Thank you so much, Dean Khatri. We are ready to proceed to the next section.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. So the third initiative is referred to as Leeds Elevates, and this essentially focuses on our graduate programs, and it also focuses on how do we continue to deliver on next-gen learning. With respect to the first piece, which is graduate program, we are focusing right now on growing our specialized MS programs. And we've created several bachelor's accelerated master's programs so that our students are able to start in the undergrad program, but they're also able to pursue a graduate degree in without really having to leave college. We also are engaging right now to actually, we're in very, very early stages and developing the concept of lifelong learning. And also the point that I had made earlier that when you look out at the next 2 or 3 decades, an important piece of the puzzle is not just what you learn in college, but essentially you have to keep on engaging in learning. And we are in very, very early stages with respect to lifelong learning. With respect to advancing next-gen learning innovation, so one of the things that we are working on is how do we continue to build momentum specifically related to AI-related initiatives, specifically related to learning and teaching related to AI. So we're doing 4 specific things. The first thing is related to developing these industry collaborations, alignment, and visibility. So essentially, we are going out to business leaders, trying to better understand how is AI changing accounting, audit practice? How is it changing the practice of being, for example, a professional finance like analyst? We're also looking into how do we get our faculty ready. So that's the second bullet. So faculty readiness, and we're working on that as well. The third one is we're preparing our students to use AI thoughtfully in their careers. They really need to use AI in a thoughtful way. It should enhance their critical thinking skills. It should not be a shortcut to actually not undertake the hard work. So that's an important piece of the puzzle. And at the end of the day, we really want to strengthen AI governance, ensuring that we really are developing responsible, consistent, and scalable AI use. Just to give you a few examples of markers by numbers. So at CU Boulder, uh, and I just got this number that we have close to 28,000 OpenAI licenses at CU Boulder, which is amazing. So we have about 38,000 students at CU Boulder, and we have about 5 or 6,000 faculty and staff. So maybe about 60 to 70% of them have open AI licenses. When students were asked to report their weekly use of AI, the number that is often quoted is that 80% of the students were saying that they were using AI on a weekly basis. Within Leeds, 74%, almost three-quarters of our faculty report at least some AI integration into their courses. And we have courses in the undergrad program that are referred to as business core courses, and there are 14 courses, and 100% of the core courses, they incorporate AI. What these 14 courses are taught by over 50 faculty. And finally, 100% of the academic divisions, so we have 7 academic divisions, they actually are participating in the AI action plan. So we have an Leeds AI advisory committee that includes Tony Tong, David Kahnke, Jeremiah Contreras, and Dan Jiang, and all of them are working together to ensure that we really roll out AI, and we really are taking good, steady strides when it comes to AI. We've also created this internal portal. So this is a community AI hub, which really showcases all the things, all the expertise that we're developing in-house so that our faculty and our students, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. The last piece that I wanted to showcase or highlight is the CU AI Club. And CU AI Club is doing fantastic job. It really it's one of the newest club. I think in the last 2 years, they have brought in so many experiential learning opportunities for the students, and I'm really, really grateful for them. I want to pause and see if you have any questions with respect to a third priority, which is Leeds Elevates. It focuses on, just a quick recap, it focuses on elevating our graduate programs. And it goes back to a question that was asked earlier as to how do we grow our reputation. And one of the big pieces of growing reputation is growing reputation in the grad program. And the second piece is how do we continue to essentially continue to innovate when it comes to next gen learning. Amanda, any questions, comments, thoughts at this point?
Yes, we do have a few questions. The first one is from Jim, who said, how are our faculty being supported as they adapt to incorporating AI into their courses? I would imagine that this might be a little bit uncomfortable for some of them who don't specialize in this area.
That is such a great point, Jim. And I think the challenge before us is not just to create one course on AI, but essentially it entails changing how we teach accounting, how we teach marketing, how we teach finance. And the other point also is that a question that was brought up a little earlier, it's not that you want to drop into every single wave that happens. So we really are giving, essentially, we are hosting many workshops so that faculty themselves learn about the opportunities that AI brings. And then they have to re-envision as to how they would be changing the course goals. And they also have to change the course assessments because with the entry of AI, everything essentially changes. So yes, right now I would say more than I would say about half of faculty that they have really embraced it. Somewhere between one third to half the faculty have really embraced them, and again to varying levels in their courses. So really, at this point in time, it is to support our faculty and also to show them what really are the opportunities. But that's a great point.
Great, thank you for that. And we have the same question from several attendees, which is essentially, how do you prevent over-reliance on AI while still encouraging students to learn how to use it effectively?
And again, that has been such a big question for us. So at the end of the day, we want the students to use these tools and technologies, but it should be used in a way that it really enhances their critical thinking skills. This is not a substitute for critical thinking. And that is really the tricky part as to how do you redesign your courses. At the same time, you ensure that the students essentially don't use it as a shortcut for essentially not learning. So that And I think that is an important piece of the puzzle. Just to give you an example, and I've heard this example from my colleague. So as you think about auditing, for example, so you can use AI, for example, to actually bring in as to how do you conduct an audit. And perhaps AI can also give you a list of questions that you can ask as a part of accounting audit. But then the students need to take things to the next level. Perhaps they can add, like, what really is the context of the organization where I could be conducting an accounting audit? How could those questions be different as you are undertaking an accounting audit? But these are really, really important questions. And this is really, I would say, this is a really, really big question for us that we essentially, the students essentially don't use it as a shortcut for not learning.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dean Khatri. And then we have one more question waiting for us within this pillar, which is from Chrissy, who says, how are graduate programs evolving to stay relevant to working professionals?
And Chrissy, again, a great question. When it comes to graduate programs, more and more graduate programs in the country are going on hybrid mode. I know there was a time when there were several programs that were sort of like online, and now we're moving the needle back to somewhere in the middle. So hybrid mode would imply that essentially you would have students that are here on campus for a few days or a week or so, and then they go and continue on their own and online. It could be synchronous or asynchronous. So more and more graduate programs, when it comes to delivery part, I think that is one thing, that is one trend that I see. The other trend that I see is that there are more and more niche programs that are being developed, and we are also developing more niched like graduate programs. For example, last year we just launched our marketing analytics program, which focuses on like data-oriented decision making specifically as it relates to marketing. Uh, Sustainable business, again, it's a niche degree that focuses specifically on our graduates that are looking for careers in sustainable business. So there's more. So I would say two big trends. One is the modality of delivery, and the second one is more and more niche degrees that are being offered.
Great. Thank you so much, Dean Khatri. We are set to move into Leeds Thrives now.
Thank you, Amanda. Moving on to Leeds Thrives, the overarching goal for Leeds Thrive is really to ensure that we advance well-being and community engagement. So when it comes to well-being and community engagement, we're doing, I would say, two big things there. One is that we are conducting a well-being survey for faculty staff. And again, we did that in spring of 25, and we're planning to do it again in spring of 26. It would allow us to better understand both the things that we're doing well as things that we can do better. For example, do our employees, excuse me, do they believe that they matter at work? How well are they able to harmonize work and life? How well are they able to make connections and work in communities? What about physical well-being, which is protection from harm, as well as are there enough opportunities for our faculty as well as staff? The second piece of the puzzle, I would say, is how do we continue to intertwine work, play, and creativity for our students, faculty, and staff? And there are many things that we're trying to do in this case. So we are just in the midst of starting a conversation about the possibility of for some of our community members, how they can essentially take small breaks and maybe they can play a puzzle. So again, we're trying to see many small things that they can engage uh, in really, really short amounts of time. The second piece that I wanted to really highlight is how do we continue to invest in faculty and staff development? So one of the challenges of being in academia is that if you're a faculty member, the ladder for your promotions is very short. You only get two promotions. You get promoted from assistant to associate and an associate to a full. So essentially, you only get two promotions if you're a faculty member. But if you're a staff member, you also don't have, the ladder is not that much longer. So again, we are working on developing professional development opportunities. So although the ladder is short, but we still are engaging and making sure that we are essentially supporting them in their own professional journeys for both faculty as well as staff. So with that, I want to transition and see if you have any thoughts and questions with respect to our fourth initiative. And our fourth initiative, just as a quick recap, it really is about communities. So how do we ensure that we have strong communities of students, faculty, and staff, as well as how do we continue to ensure that our faculty and staff, the professional development, we keep continue to invest in their professional journeys. Amanda, any questions, thoughts, input so far?
Yes, we do. We have a question here from Sam who said, what drove the decision for well-being to be a strategic pillar?
That is such a great point, Sam. So one of the challenges as we got started was that mental health of students was a significant priority. That is not just within CU Boulder. This is really something that is true nationwide. When you think about mental health, there is such large number of students who really feel that they are getting burnt out. And the same story is true for faculty and staff as well. So when you think from long-term perspective as to how do we ensure that our graduates, our students, our faculty and staff, all of them thrive in a professional environment, it was really important that we need to have a close-knit community. And the second piece is that we really need to look out for them to also think about their well-being as well.
Thank you for that. We next have a question from Chase who said, how does Leeds plan to take steps to increase accessibility for those with disabilities as part of this plan?
That is a great point. So we are looking for more ways to continue to support our students, specifically with respect to accessibility. And there are so many different dimensions with respect to accessibility. It goes all the way from providing them with financial support. We also want to create from this initiative's perspective, it really is about creating strong communities so that there is enough scaffolding that we also provide. So essentially, it's both through building strong communities internally, providing scaffolding, and then also providing financial support as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then let's see, we have a question here from Jack who said, are you seeing challenges in retaining faculty or staff that these initiatives are meant to address?
And that's a fantastic question, Jack. So yes, sometimes, like when it comes to burnout, it is influencing our ability to retain both actually all three stakeholders, to retain students, to retain faculty, and to also retain staff. Sometimes burnout can be a contributor. So having strong communities internally so that people are able to lean on to each other and also support each other. So one of the overarching goals is also not just to think about Leeds as its own community, but to also think about larger community of CU Boulder, as well as to think about even the larger community of Boulder and the state of Colorado. How do we showcase as to how we can support the communities within the state? And when you learn about supporting others, you also learn how to support yourself. So one of our overarching goals is also to engage in things like service-based learning. How do we continue to serve our state and also to serve our communities? And again, this is part of also learning about how you part of a larger community.
Thank you, Dean Khatri. And that wraps up the questions that we have for this pillar. But if it's okay, we'll back out and ask a couple of questions that that our alumni have submitted that they would just love to hear your perspective on. The first is, could you talk a little bit about the affordability of a Leeds education and what that looks like right now?
That's a really good question. So when it comes to affordability, we are continuing to look for more scholarship opportunities for both in-state as well as out-of-state students. And we had done some number crunching. I don't have the numbers right now with me, but yes, it is still expensive when it comes to out-of-state students. But when it comes to in-state students, like when you look at the average tuition that the student pays for an in-state student, it is actually quite reasonable. So yes, we are looking into ways in which we can continue to work towards essentially making education more affordable. And as we're looking for like fundraising, one of our key goals is to fundraise for more scholarships so that we can essentially provide more affordable education to more number of students, both in the undergrad as well as the grad programs.
Great. Thank you for that. We have a question here from Ben who said, how are any federal funding changes impacting Leeds at this point?
Ben, that's a great point. So when it comes to federal funding, business schools in general, like faculty don't go out for sponsored research. So sponsored research is essentially the term for essentially when a project is seeking federal funding, or so business schools don't typically ask for that. So we literally had two projects, I think two or three projects that were funded by essentially by that were essentially so that's essentially sponsored research. There was one that essentially the funding was taken away, and we were able to at least provide them with stopgap arrangement, and the other one was not affected. Having said that, it does affect CU Boulder at large. You may have heard a number. The CU Boulder essentially receives close to over $750 million in terms of sponsored research. So it has affected us at campus level, but I would say locally within Leeds, the impact has been smaller. But also at CU Boulder, the impact has not been as large as some other universities. I think it's less than uh, somewhere between 3 to 5%.
Thank you, Dean Khatri. And looking at the time, we'll end with one last question that came in from Amy related to Leeds Edge, which is, have you received any early feedback from students that are participating in Design Your Leads pilots? Are they liking the program?
That is fantastic question. So as we are undertaking these pilots, we've really received outstanding feedback from students, and we really have focused on these early pilots. We focus on students that were struggling to get into the job market. So we've received outstanding feedback from students, both the fact that they were making better connections, they were getting better clarity when it came down to different career options. So again, we are tweaking things. It will take us a while to be able to roll out something which is so large in scope. So imagine DYL2 and DYL3, although these are one credit hour classes, but again, they will be rolled out to over 1,000 or 1,100 students. So we just have to be careful as to how we roll them out.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us for today's presentation, and a special thank you again to Dean Khatri for this great information. At this time, we invite you to provide your feedback on the webinar by answering the following poll question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this webinar to a friend or fellow Leeds alumni? As a reminder, all webinar attendees will receive an email on Thursday with a link to the recording of this presentation as well as a survey. To view upcoming webinars as well as previous recordings, please visit our website at colorado.edu/business/alumni. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for your time, and go Buffs.